So timing is, oftentimes really important for startups and also oftentimes in life in general. What are some like macro signals, I guess, you saw that led you to invest in Lotus, but also, feel that like Lotus was solving an important problem?
Well, as you know, I'm very product oriented. So, I think that there were a number of things that were fascinating to me. First is we saw this consumer trend of people leaning on ChatGPT for, call it 10 to 20% of searches being healthcare related, but then hitting a wall in terms of really trusting what ChatGPT was telling them and the inability to get prescriptions. They were maybe uploading their information on a one-off basis, et cetera. And so, that felt like there was this gap in the market that someone could capture with a great product experience. And then honestly, some of it you convinced me, in that I wasn't aware you could build this magical, this magical experience that you built where I could authorize you to go get all my medical records and pull them into a single place and then, create amazing analysis and introspection on that. To me was really powerful. And then it does feel like, as we've talked about, AI, we're seeing the capabilities of AI get better and better and better. And so in terms of getting the timing right, everything from, the quality of the recommendations and the data, the analysis, combined with even the ability to use voice, et cetera, all feel like the window is now to start working on this problem, knowing a lot of things are going to break over probably the next, couple of years, but they'll continue to improve. And I think, Lotus is absolutely in the right place at the right time to build all the infrastructure and get everything right. And ideally capitalize on the market opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I think no, you're absolutely right. I'm also curious, you've been investing for multiple decades now, and you were early in companies like Twitter. You were at Series A, companies like DoorDash and Mercury and others. What's something that you found, I guess, that's sort of a common thread amongst consumer founders in particular that gets you excited?
I love in our conversation earlier, you talked about kind of first principles thinking. And the thing that stood out to me was your deep understanding of the problem and not just taking, out of the deep understanding of the problem comes what I would describe as original product thought. And we've met so many startups that are talking about building AI doctors, but then the way in which that manifests in product has just not been compelling to us. Some of them hit a wall and then you have to do a video call with a doctor or, something. It's not truly what AI native might look like. Right. And so I think for us, this understanding that you guys have and the craftsmanship that you have of not just understanding the problem, but asking how could we answer this differently and answer it differently also for the doctors who are involved today is really, I think, what has us very excited, combined with the value proposition of, to your point, really trying to do something very disruptive and not thinking about a different business model, not unlike, when we seeded Patreon, and just rethinking advertising, saying advertising isn't working for creators, online. What would a different business model look like? I think we are energized by your exploration of saying, how could we reimagine healthcare with a very compelling consumer experience?
Well, yeah, it's been an honor working with you so far.
I think one day everyone in America is going to have the Lotus app on their phone, and it's going to change tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of lives.